There are some stories so painful, so shocking, that even as you tell them, part of you hopes they aren't true. This is one of them. On the morning of May 12, 2022, Deborah Emmanuel, a 22-year-old student at the Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto, Nigeria, likely woke up thinking about exams, group chats, or maybe what she'd have for lunch that day. She had plans. She had dreams. She had faith. But by the end of that day, her life was over. Not because of an accident, not because of illness, but because of words. Words that sparked rage. Words that turned classmates into executioners. Words that led to a brutal public death. Recorded on phones, cheered by some, mourned by millions. Her name was Deborah Emmanuel, and this is her story. A story about intolerance, about silence, about courage, but most of all, a story that should never have to be told again. Before she became a hashtag, before the protests, before the anger and the heartbreak, Deborah Emmanuel was just a student, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was 22 years old, in her second year of college at the Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto. Her dream? To become a teacher, someone who could shape young minds and bring knowledge to the next generation. Deborah was known for being outspoken, honest, grounded in her faith. A proud Christian in a part of Nigeria where religious differences often run deep. She didn't shy away from what she believed. She didn't hide it either. Friends described her as warm, confident, and driven. She sang in her church choir. She loved gospel music. She studied hard. And just like millions of other students across Nigeria, she believed in education as her path forward. But above all, she was just a young woman trying to live her life with purpose. She wasn't a politician. She wasn't trying to make headlines. She simply wanted to learn, to graduate, and to serve. And in any just world, that would have been enough. It started with a message. Like most colleges around the world, Deborah's school had WhatsApp groups, online spaces meant for sharing lecture notes, class schedules, and school updates. But often those groups drifted off topic, filled with jokes, gossip, and in this case, religious messages. One day after another round of religious posts flooded the group, Deborah reportedly voiced her frustration. She asked that the group be kept for academic purposes. She questioned why religion had to dominate a space meant for schoolwork. And then she added something that would be called blasphemy. The exact words she used? Still debated. Some claim she insulted the Prophet Muhammad. Others say she simply asked for balance and respect. But in the charged atmosphere of Sokoto, a region where religious identity is woven into everyday life, her words ignited something dangerous. The chat didn't just spark disagreement, it lit a fuse. Within hours, whispers turned into shouts. Screenshots spread. Phone calls were made. Fury began to boil beneath the surface. And Deborah, whether she realized it or not, was now in danger. May 12, 2022, a Thursday, just another school day. Deborah arrived at campus unaware that her private thoughts, shared in a student group, had now made her a target. She was in class when it began. Word spread fast. A group of students confronted her, angry, loud, demanding she apologize for her message. But Deborah refused. "What I said in truth," she reportedly told them, her voice firm, her faith unshaken, but her fate sealed. Within minutes, things spiraled out of control. A mob formed. Dozens of students dragged her out of the classroom. They beat her, stoned her, and then they set her on fire, on school grounds, in daylight, while others stood by, recording, cheering, doing nothing. Videos of her final moments would later flood social media, graphic, horrifying, and unforgettable. Her screams, her body, her silence. And when it was over, Deborah was gone, not because she hurt someone, not because she broke the law, but because she spoke, because she dared to ask, "Can we talk about school in a school group?" And in that moment, reason died with her. News of Deborah's death spread across Nigeria and the world within hours. Shock turned to anger. Grief turned to outrage. Christians and Muslims alike condemned the killing. Protests broke out in major cities. People poured into the streets with candles, banners, and one question on their lips: how could this happen? In Sokoto, tensions rose further. Demonstrators demanded the release of those arrested in connection to the killing. Churches were attacked. Businesses were shut down. The state imposed a curfew. Police eventually arrested 2 suspects, young men seen in the viral videos. But to many Nigerians, it wasn't enough. The crowd was massive. The crime was filmed. So why only 2 arrests? Religious leaders pleaded for calm. Some called for justice. Others remained silent. And Deborah's family? Devastated, heartbroken, terrified. Her father said he would not seek justice. He feared retaliation. Imagine that. Losing your daughter in such a brutal way and being too afraid to even ask for accountability. In the days that followed, Nigerian society was forced to confront a painful truth. Deborah wasn't just killed. She was abandoned by her school, by the state, and by a culture too often afraid to speak when it matters most. Deborah Emmanuel is gone, but her story lives on. In the halls of Nigerian universities, her name is now whispered in dorm rooms, scrawled on walls and spoken in private prayers. She has become a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of truth. A truth that is uncomfortable, a truth that is dangerous to ignore. Her death reopened old wounds and forced hard questions into the spotlight. How free is speech in Nigeria? Where does religious identity end and national unity begin? And most importantly, who protects the vulnerable when the system stays silent? Deborah's voice was silenced, but in that silence, something else was awakened. Thousands, young and old, began speaking out. Online, in churches, in mosques, on the streets. Not just for Deborah, but for the idea that no one, no student, no woman, no child should ever be killed over words. Her legacy is not only a call for justice, it's a call for courage. Courage to speak, courage to listen, courage to stand for what's right, even when it costs everything. Deborah Emmanuel was only 22, a student, a believer, a dreamer. She didn't ask to be a martyr. She only asked to learn in peace. And now her story asks something of us. That we remember, that we question, that we refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. If Deborah's story moved you, if you believe that no voice should be silenced with violence, please share this video. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. And if you'd like to see more stories like this, stories that matter, subscribe to the channel. Because remembering is powerful, and together we can make sure stories like Deborah's are never forgotten. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and never stop speaking up.